thank you for tuning in. My name is Tim Temple. I'm one of the co-founders of TalkAboutWatches.com, and I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome the gentleman you see on the screen. We're going to be doing an interview today, more of a conversation really, about what I think is it's very important in the video retail industry, what is happening here in the coming weeks and months, and these gentlemen have a great deal to do with it. So I'm going to turn you over to a friend of mine and a colleague and someone I've admired. He's got a huge history in video retail, and that is Marvin Segel. Marvin, thank you, first of all, for doing this, and if you guys would, could we please get a brief introduction of everyone in the room?
Okay, I'll start. Marvin Segel, thank you for the introduction. I grew up in TV shopping. Those that know me and don't know me, I was there the day the switch went live at QVC. So I grew up in the industry. I developed vendor relations, on-air guest training at both QVC and at Shop NBC. As you know, I trained all the guests and occasionally ended up on air with a watch brand or two. I love what the business is about, but we'll get into our philosophy on rebooting it. Hugo.
Hello, Hugo Jimenez. I'm a business strategist for digital technology and media advertising and retail. Also, as well, I'm on the board of directors of a company called Tuvisión Canal, which is the Spanish YouTube. And I'm very excited to finally meet you, Tim. I've heard a lot about you from these two gentlemen here.
Thank you, Hugo.
And I'm Marvin Brody. I've been an on-air guest, vendor, product developer, rep in the television industry.
And a hell of a dentist.
And and every so often I do a little bit of doctoring. But listen, it's I've sort of worked my way from the bottom up, so I know, how all of our friends down at the lower level, I feel their pain, and we're here to alleviate it and make things a lot better for the future.
You are a good doctor, sir, and I appreciate that. Gentlemen, if you're good with it, before we get into the topic at hand, I was wondering, Marvin and everyone really, can you expand a little bit on Star Shop, your new project? What's going on with that?
Yeah, Star Shop started about 2 years ago. It's basically in a long-term beta test. It's a partnership. It's with Sprint, with a division of Sprint called Pinsight Media. They did the app development. They are involved with us. That gives us, if I could say, a little bit of an advantage in terms of distribution on mobile devices. It's based on celebrity social media. So we were a little bit ahead of our time. The term celebrity has now broadened to not just mean celebrity, but social media influencers, which ties into where we're going on the TV side now. And the other thing we just did last night, which I'm really proud of, is we did our first show with Bella Magazine, which is a very famous magazine for the Hamptons and in LA, using a technology which we own the rights to in the TV shopping space called Bling Buy. What it does, Tim, it allows you or any influencer to talk about a product but not have to be a salesperson. Around the screen is a frame that says, follow Tim, learn more about Tim, what's Tim wearing, etc. So all the selling happens around the video, even in live stream. It's very cool.
Yeah, Marvin, as you and I have stayed in touch over the years, you tend to be very technology savvy, I guess. And I'll open this up for the whole team. How do you guys view technology influencing the future of video retail? Is it a big deal, not a big deal? What's your take on it?
I'm going to let Hugo also talk, but my point is we can now control 4 different retail shopping technologies for the mobile space that, in our opinion, will be game changers. Here's my technology partner also over here.
We believe it is a very, very big deal. You've called it video retail. We call it video commerce. There's almost a back to the future element that's being enabled with technology. We believe that the space needs to get back to the basics of content. You provide engaging, authentic, acculturated content relevant to the viewer, and the viewer will respond by buying, in our case, for all of us, this is why we're here, buying more watches that are better, higher quality, and then that provides better margins for the retailer. The retail apocalypse that's going on right now is pretty obvious from a cash perspective. Margins down, 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 down. We believe by leveraging technology, by leveraging the fact that everybody's got one of these things, the way I look at it is that, Spock is here and everybody's got a tricorder. There's, a few hundred million of these running around on planet Earth right now. So by leveraging this, allowing people to shop in a time-shifted mechanism where you could shop whenever you want, whatever you want, and you don't have to wait for, oh, my favorite show's on at 11 o'clock so I can see Tim selling a watch. I can do it anywhere, any place on Earth. I don't have to wait for you to show up.
Tim, a subject that you love, which is photography, okay? That's your passion. An example of that is if you were to go buy or want to buy a camera, you of course know the very famous store in New York, B&H Camera.
Sure, of course.
Okay, iconic worldwide. You go on B&H's website, not that we're giving them a free plug here, but you go on B&H's website, you have great videos, you have instructional videos, you can learn about the product before you buy it. Find the same camera on Amazon, and there's literally no video. It's basically a picture, and that's it. And that's where we believe content will be king. Amazon has a function, but everybody's blaming Amazon. I think, quite frankly, you look at B&H, look how successful they are, and that just shows you when you have good content, you're going to have a very loyal customer base.
And remember, there are people
I absolutely agree with you. And another example is that, like Sweetwater Audio in the music world, they're doing something similar. And in my own little sphere, it sounds like we're going to agree at least on one basic premise, and that's knowledge is power. And I've maintained that for decades. And if you look at what myself and my partner Mike Davis are doing, we talk about watches, we're growing exponentially. And I think a lot of that has to do with real content. It's not fluff. It's real information. And when we put watch deals together, they're genuinely a value. And it seems like you guys have a similar thought there with Star Shop. I mean, obviously you're going to have the celebrity and the influencer appeal, but if you combine that with real tech and with the real information, it's a pretty it's a significant opponent, I think, for anyone else in the business.
I agree. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to point out for the people who have been watching this industry for decades. The two-shot, where I was on air and doing, back in the day, which was the premier way of doing it, because of the amount of information available, it's stale. Now, the people that have dug in and believe that this is going to be, continue to be the future, well, those are the guys who still believe that, film in your camera is going to be the future.
And I hope they keep making it for you.
Yeah, we have been limber enough to, and agile enough to be able to move ahead in a very progressive manner versus saying, I'm going to dig in and stick with the old style. And that's where we're moving ahead with.
I'm going to dovetail off of that a little bit. I'd intended to ask you guys this a bit later in the interview, but since you brought it up, I'm going to reference the Star Tribune article going back maybe a week and a half now. And one of the things that I believe it's you, Marvin, is quoted as saying, you refer to current programming as, and I quote, old and stale, unquote. Can you share a bit about what you guys mean? And it sounds like you're starting to get into that. And how might that be improved, in your opinion? So
just as Dr. Brody was saying, if you look back to the movie Joy, if you remember that movie, and there's a lot of history that's correct in that movie, that when the mop first went on air, it went on air with a male show host. I would suggest that you and the three guys in here probably have no idea how to mop at all. And it obviously bombed on air when it first went on air at QVC. Joy then begged a QVC executive, played by Bradley Cooper, and depending on who you believe, that was either him portraying my father or another executive at QVC at the time, to go on air. That was the first time the two-shot was done, as Dr. Brody was saying, in TV shopping. The two-shot, of course, we know is on the Today Show. It's on every evening news program, every entertainment program. our reboot for that, Tim, is the two-shot is now an influencer and a host. The host is asking the influencer, well, why do you recommend this product? And they're going to look right into the camera and they're going to say, let me tell you why my followers love this, why my family loves this, why I love it. And they're going to talk about it. And then maybe every 2 minutes, the camera's going to go stage right, stage left, and there's going to be Joy stringing them up, talking about why that mop is so good. Then they're going to come back to that two-shot. The advantage of that is you're now going to have an influencer with their millions of followers now bringing more eyeballs to the shopping channel, where currently there are declining eyeballs at a dramatic rate in the what we call TV. And TV is changing, and it's not going to be TV as we know it probably in about 3 years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with your time frame. I've heard people throw out in the next 10 years, and there's no way that current television is surviving 10 years. The technology, in my opinion, is moving far too quickly. What do you attribute the shift in demographic at? My opinion is that the younger crowd is frankly, they're just cutting the cable. Do you agree with me? Do you have a different take on that?
I think both younger and older, Hugo's experienced it with his parents. My in-laws are basically not connected to cable. They're doing over the top. They're watching Netflix,
Exactly.
Apple TV, etc. And all of the viewership is taking place on this device. That's the difference that's happening now. And this is the future right here. And this is how you're watching your video, you're streaming it. The TV we're watching you on right now, we still call it a TV. However, really what it is a big computer monitor that we're sending data to, and we're streaming all different types of content.
And if I may, the mobile platform is one in which you can project to other screens.
Right.
So where a lot of folks get caught up in is they'll say, well, you know, looking on mobile, it's not the right form factor. If somebody's like old thinking, so, no, I can just put it right up on the screen that we're looking at right now, and that's it. You know, I can put it up on the 60-inch screen and away we go. I can put my game up there, or I can put my favorite novella, game in the sense of my niece's, novella in the case of my mom, and this characteristic goes. We are reaching a point, Marvin is absolutely correct, where technology is no longer, and the shift, especially in TV and cord cutting, is no longer tied to an age demographic. It's really tied to, do I want to save money or not? In yesterday's Post, I believe, New York Post, I believe, there was an excerpt from something called DSL Reports that reported on cable TV. Last year, the numbers were coming out at about 16 million had already cut the cord. In the last quarterly report that just for 5 out of the 7 big cable companies that came out, it was about 750,000 people cut the cord in the last quarter.
Which is amazing.
So it's real. It's not a passing fad. I just have to get on a soapbox for a second. I've been involved in digital technology since in 1996 when I helped found a small internet service provider. And I have seen this happen in the music industry. I've seen this happen in advertising, in media, and the turn now is retail. Technology will shift and change your business, and if you don't shift and change, you're going to be just like Tower Records in the music business.
And as far as our team, to bring it down to what we're doing, we're not theoretical. We're not sitting here going, okay, we see a problem and now let's bring in our computer geeks and figure this out. No, we are in real time. We have the 4 technologies at our disposal exclusively. You know, we are ready to employ them immediately, and we are doing it actually right now.
Right.
So we're way ahead of the game. We're just, you know, we're prepared.
I have to agree with everything you guys are saying. And when we founded Talk About Watches, it's a really similar premise. I mean, instead of looking at 20th century technology and trying to fix it, why don't you just start with 21st century technology? And it really cuts dramatic cost all around, as you guys obviously know. And it's one of the reasons that TAW became so competitive right out of the gate. And I think anyone who's ignoring the current technology, or you think it's going to be a fad, as you mentioned, Marvin, I think you're whistling past the graveyard. I mean, if you go back in history, there was a time when the talkies movies came out, and there was a big talk of that was going to be a fad. it's, yeah, I think you guys are on the right track, and I actually applaud you for what you're doing, because somebody had to step up and do this in video retail, and you guys obviously are. I'm going to dovetail off of that, and I'm going to talk. Let's talk about the whole Evine thing. This is how we, of course, generated this interview. For those of you who don't know, and right below this video, I'm sure there's going to be a link. If you want to read the article, it was in the Minneapolis Star Tribune newspaper going back the better part of 2 weeks now, talking about Marvin Segel's approach to basically, I don't think I'm misspeaking here, to taking over Evine. And for those of you who don't know, Evine is a shopping network out of the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. So the first question I'd like to ask is, and I guess we can open this up to everybody, but I'll start with Marvin, is how did you arrive at the idea of taking over Evine? Was it just that the stock dropped below $1? Was there another motivation? What's up with that?
So obviously, when you look at what we've done here at Star Shop, it's kind of an innovative way of connecting celebrity or monetizing social media. So we're doing that, and in what is a very small world in TV shopping, we are actually also owned 5% by one of Tommy Hilfiger's companies, who also made an investment into what is currently Evine. And when the stock dropped to around 50 cents a share, obviously I follow everybody in the industry, it kind of hurt, because Tim, you know what the team did when I was there. We got that stock from about 17 cents a share to almost $9 a share, and in a relatively short period of time, it dropped off the cliff. And I was talking to our CEO here, and I said, you know, there might be an opportunity to take what we're doing and apply it to TV shopping and basically broaden the distribution we have, along with bringing in some, again, using not only the changing the sales dynamic, adding Spanish, which is kind of like, you got to pause and think about that for a second, second largest language in the country, and no TV shopping in the US is addressing that marketplace at all. And then using exclusive shopping technologies that will, quite frankly, blow you away in terms of how cool it's going to make shopping on your mobile device. You put all those three things together, we started talking among ourselves. We're in New York City. You've got a lot of very interesting people here that are very influential, and we were off to the races. And then we started to share our goals and our dreams publicly.
And when I joined,
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I was just, in addition to that, when I joined the team, through my experiences as a vendor at Shop back in the day, and as an on-air guest, and bringing product there, and a product developer over the years and decades of that I've been involved in this, I also looked at the other angle, whereas I believe the vendors have to be taken care of and treated and developed so that they can grow, so that they can be innovative, so that they can be productive. And if you have a company that's literally at 17 cents or 40 cents or even $1, they're very, very apprehensive about saying, hey, let me be innovative, let me go and do some R&D and develop some new products here. Well, maybe, why should I don't know if I'm going to really get my return here. So my focus, coming from that world, is taking care of vendors. And in turn, when you take care of vendors, they will also take care of their customers. Customer relations has to be a major priority in terms of making sure customers are happy, that being taken care of, that the vendors have the assets and the wherewithal to deal with any problems that take place. You put all that together, the technology end, you put together the relations, the customer relations, the vendor relations, you have a perfect storm coming together for a major move in this market, to be productive, to be innovative, to be the first. And we will be the first.
There's a lot of easy fixes. I'm not going to say it is easy, but there's a lot of very easy ways to turn the ship, think about the vendor, think about the customer, and bring product. And again, my passion for watches. I think that there is such a great opportunity to bring on really cool brands, really boutique brands, not doing anything that's really that new. It's just blowing the dust off the old ideas with a little bit of a twist for the mobile side.
Yeah, you kind of go old school, but you do it with 21st century tech. Get back to the information side of things. It makes total sense. Anyone who follows this industry knows that Evine hasn't been profitable in a very long time. What do you guys attribute that to?
No, I mean they have a little. Let's go backwards in history. When QVC actually was the #4 shopping channel, they were doing $200 million a year in sales. Think about how low that number was 25 years ago, and where they are now.
Cable value network days.
That's you're getting ahead of me.
Okay.
CVN. So
Sure.
there was this idea to put QVC on the map and get it ahead of HSN by acquiring CVN in Minneapolis. And when they did that, think about this, Tim. CVN had about $600 million in sales. Okay. CVN, the leftover pieces became Value Vision, which became Shop NBC, Shop HQ, and now Evine, whatever the hell that means. But the point is, where are their sales now? 660 something. I mean, it hasn't grown. It's flatlined for 25 years, in my opinion, because there has not been innovation in what is going on. There's been good kind of getting the numbers correct, getting the balance sheet right in the last couple of years, but there's nothing to really create top line growth.
I look at it that from just studying this, because again, I was brought in by the team to help out from the digital side and also from the Spanish media side. It really is, you can be the smallest in an industry and still be the most innovative.
Yep.
And that is not what Evine has done. I can give you a perfect example outside of this industry. Apple in the 90s was far, far, far smaller than Microsoft and a lot of other software companies and hardware companies in the business. But look at them now. One word: innovation.
Steve Jobs was a literal genius. And by the way, I'm a Mac missionary, so you don't have to sell me on that. I own Black Rabbit Nashville, which is a recording studio in Nashville, and we are, as we say, Mac'd out, and for good reason. Coming back to Evine for a second, and there may be an update I'm not aware of, but to my knowledge, Evine hasn't commented on any of this. Is that still correct, and why do you think that is?
Well, let's say it's been a very dismissive comment. It's typically been a 2-sentence response, simply saying the company is not for sale and they don't want to talk at the current time. I think that's more or less what has been said. And what makes that so interesting is that our more recent proposal was not about actually buying the company. It was about acquiring the operating assets and leaving the EVLV holding company intact. So we weren't buying it. We were no different than if I were to buy a copying machine, out of their offices. We were buying what made it work as a company, and then basically rebooting and bringing in new technology and innovation to what they're doing. So it's been a very dismissive way of dealing with this. In my opinion, I don't think they have been really looking out for the shareholder value because they have never even heard our presentation. We're making an offer that is substantially more than what QVC paid for HSN, and they're two powerhouses, and but they haven't given us an opportunity to explain that to them.
Let me grab a quick question, kind of on the side of that. The industry, I think it's fair to say, you mentioned the QVC and HSN deal, of course. I think it's fair to say the industry is very much in flux. Well, why Evine instead of one of the other networks? You guys, there's JTV out there. There's Shop LC. I'm sure there's some others. Why that specific one?
I guess, in my opinion, and anybody else can jump in. Number one is there is the knowledge I have of that building. Obviously spending 7 years there. My joke whenever I make a presentation is I know where every storage closet is, every bathroom, and I know which bathroom's clogged. I know everything about that building. And I think it's small enough and big enough to have an immediate impact, and it has good sales. It just needs to be better. It's not saying I'm going to be kind of a little bit more positive. It's not that there's that much wrong, but there's that much more room for improvement that can happen there. JTV is private, the liquidation channel. It's just really, it's based on my experience, the knowledge I have of the team there. I think it's quite frankly a great team, and I just want to build upon that.
I had the old joke, I mean, because in our day, you know that the building is 2 stories. The suits and execs were on the 2nd floor, and I made my bones on the 1st floor. You know that, right? With the studios and the green room,
Sure.
and with that. And so my familiarity and my understanding is really from the ground up, and I mean literally from the ground up, from the 1st floor up, and that's a kind of expertise and empathy that I can bring to grow and to improve vendor and customer.
Yeah, and what Dr. Brody's saying, this is part of the team here, is I think it's very important, as we said, about vendor relations. And my goal is, once we get involved, and I believe we will get involved, is that we're going to put a vendor, Dr. Brody, in charge of vendor relations. And what a great message to send to the vendor community by having one of their own look out for them. I mean, when I was there, Tim, I formed the vendor board there. Mm-hmm. I don't think it exists anymore. But I mean, I think you have to have the vendor have a voice, tell them what's wrong. And as you know, my office was on that 1st floor on the way to the green room. Of course, I took a lot of abuse. It was also 2 doors away from the model dressing room, but that was just coincidental. But I really wanted to be where everybody passed by, vendors and on-air guests, and my door was always open, and people came in and they talked to me. It was kind of like I was doing therapy there all the time.
Yeah, I stopped in on more than a few occasions, and not only are you a great therapist, I got to say that part of what was really great about watching you work is that you were genuinely interested in bringing in new blood, and you would bring in this idea works, or this product would do great, or we can have an existing product and modify it. And I can see you do that on a daily basis. And one of the great examples, of course, is that great set of 3 watches that you were a part of. Did that even make? I think it finally did make the air. I was going to say it sold out before it went on, but I think there were some. A great testament to what you can do.
Yeah, that was kind of like, again, that's kind of a reboot of an idea from the Franklin Mint, where you've got 3 watches in a collection from Invicta, the best quartz, best mechanical, and best automatic, and the limited edition numbers all match, and you got them at the same time in a case signed by AL with the same matching number, and it went on, at 11 o'clock, and I think it was gone by like 9 a.m. in the morning. And it was not cheap. It was, I think it was $29.50 for the 3 watches. And I believe that you're bringing up a point, and I've said this many times. I'm wearing a Breitling now. I have a couple other watches that are from, that are kind of favorites of mine. This was a wedding gift. And my point of the Breitling is that, I don't want to see a watch of this caliber sold in Walgreens at $79. That doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And I think there's an obligation to preserve value. The first Invicta I ever bought when I got there was the specialty with the Valdrew movement, the see-through dial, and I think I paid like $2,400 for that watch. I still own it today. I love that watch. But I mean, I don't want to see a cheap version of it. I like what the brand is about. And I think there's the opportunity to do that with other brands, and also bring in some really boutique brands, Dual Remote from Basel, and bring the latest and greatest. Maybe you only sell 1 or 2 of a watch, but you bring some what I call eye candy for the watch collector, so that they really can, and our friends in the business, there's some really cool stuff that has been done. I mean, I'm going to hold this up. You remember this. This was Zaftra when this came together, and in a cute story, when this first came out, and I was talking, this was Wing and Craig, correct?
Yeah.
And they told me they were doing this. I went online, not on Shop NBC site. I went on their website and I bought a watch at full retail. They couldn't believe I did it, and I ended up being the first customer to place an order. And they thought I was crazy because I didn't use my employee discount. But that was the way I supported the watch guys. and they know that. I was always in their camp. I hung out with you guys. We have that photo. I mean, I love what watches are about.
Yeah, I do too, and of course that's the part of the reason that you and I have stayed in touch is I think there's a real camaraderie in the watch community. I really haven't found that in another industry, and I mean the customers have a camaraderie, and I've also found that the merchants and the vendors and the watch creators, there does tend to be a kind of a symbiotic thing going on that I haven't found in other venues, which is pretty cool. I'm going to come back to that thought in a second. I got a question. You guys were referencing first floor, second floor, and I want to talk a bit about that. Let's, for the sake of this conversation, let's assume that you guys proceed and you're involved directly with Evine. How to put this? Well, right now there's frankly been a pretty, I think it's fair to say, a revolving door in the second floor in the tower. Somebody comes in, they run it, they leave, and they come in and so on. What is it that you guys are going to do to stay that, or are you viewing it as maybe a good thing? What's your take on senior management?
Well, I think that senior management should live there. Jim Morrison, if everything goes as we expect it, will be moving there. He's a past president of L'Oreal. He's done 9 mergers and acquisitions at L'Oreal, an amazing guy, and he is committed to move out there. I will be out there for a good chunk of time. The only reason I'm not moving at present is because my in-laws, my father-in-law has very bad Alzheimer's, dementia, and it would be very difficult to move him. But I will be spending a lot of time there. But I think as important with that, Tim, and you know some of the stuff I did in the past, when I was out there and I was involved in the community, where I was involved, I think, with the Eden Prairie Foundation, and I won that charity to throw out that ceremonial first pitch at the Twins game. That's being involved in the community so people know who you are. So as an employee of the building, when you go someplace and you say you work for Evine, they know who you are, even though you're in their backyard. And that was always a goal of mine, to be involved and be doing things in the community. I think it's very, very important to do that.
I think the mentality also has to be is that the company is not there to take care of the execs. We're there to take care of the company.
Right.
And it's just a matter of that mentality, of bringing that level of enthusiasm to the people, to the entire staff that's working there on all levels. And by doing that, you know, you set a certain psyche amongst everyone that's there, that, hey, we're not here to just milk this company or to just ride it out as long as it can until the TV shopping apocalypse comes now versus the retail apocalypse. But we're here to make sure that you're going to be employed in this industry and grow in this industry for the next 20 years, because we're going to set this on the standard that 25 or 30 years ago that QVC created when it hit the market, and it was the most innovative product. If we can relay that enthusiasm, we will get return enthusiasm from the staff, from the vendors, from the customers, and grow a top-line revenue, which will be commensurate with a $1 billion company.
And we think we can turn it into a $1 billion company. And again, Tim, a lot of the ideas that were done way back, there's very few people that have the continuity, that know what was done in the past. So an example is, in the very early days of QVC, 2 of the board members that were put on there by my father were game show developers. They actually did TV game shows. And if you think about it, some people might say it was corny, but what it did was it made it fun to watch. They had the match the number to your membership number. There was like a lottery machine, and they did things like that. Well, we want to do that again. However, we want to do that in mobile. We want to make you ping the app once an hour, and a little lottery machine will spin the balls around. And if it matches your membership number or credit card number on file, you'll tap a button and you would have $25 credit on your account. And that would keep the customer engaged. These are not necessarily new ideas. They're basically kind of rebooting them again for where we are now in today's world. QVC had the big orange bus, went around the country looking for the best in each state. I want to take the concept of that bus, but do it for the Spanish market and have it go around our country. Think of what we're going through in this world right now. I'm not making a political statement, but basically imagine going around the country looking for the best Spanish entrepreneurs and products in every state. And that'd be great. And the difference between where it was and where it is now, I can go live, Facebook Live, right from here. I don't need a $500,000 bus to do that. And you can do that, and I can make, as I mentioned before, with the Bling Buy technology, I can make any video shoppable instantaneously. I mean, it's amazing what can happen in today's world.
Hugo, you're kind of a tech guy. What's your thought on that?
Well, we've been throwing so many things at you at one point or another, but innovation is not. A lot of people think innovation means I'm going to throw a whole bunch of coders in a room and let them come up with new code. Innovation is exactly what Dr. Brody was talking about, is having enthusiasm and saying things evolve, things change. To be able to be a professional, which we believe are the folks at Evine, the folks that do the work every day, whether they're in Eden Prairie or down in Bowling Green, get up every morning to try. They want to have that job tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. But unless management, unless executives have the vision and the guts to make change, it's not going to happen. Yeah, some of it's going to be technology. Some of it's going to be leveraging the fact that, as I like to say, things are time shifted. We're in a box right now, the way the industry is in video commerce, as I call it, because you're just making content for TV in real time, live. But we need to provide more content than there are hours in the day, because folks, the more content you provide, the more avenues you have. And it's already proven. This is nothing new. It's called Netflix. So we're doing absolutely nothing new or bleeding edge. It's not even cutting edge, really, of what's out there. We're just taking what's out there and making it happen. Right. And we're doing it today. In our studios in Los Angeles, in our studios here in New York, we have been producing content that is authentic and relevant and fit to the product and demographic that doesn't damage the video experience. Using technologies, we're allowed the video to flow as it's going in real time, in as you're watching it, and then we're having the products come in. So it's a softer seller aspect, something that also appeals to the millennial demographic. We're just leveraging what's out there. That's all we're doing, but we're bringing the attitude, the vision, and the guts, really, just to make it happen.
But you see, that's what I, not to be repetitive, but you see, a lot of theory has been thrown around and bandied around over the past decade in terms of, Hugo mentioned our New York studios right here in the heart of Times Square, which is exactly where we're sitting right now. LA, New York, Minneapolis, we've got the middle of the country, we have the two coasts. This is not theory. We're not going to go start shopping and negotiating for studios. We have active studios right now. We have technologies right now. There's no theory. The plan is in place. This can be effective literally within 30 days and some things within a day if you want to go Facebook Live. We're there. It's no longer a theoretical in our case. Many other people like to theorize. We're practical.
As a matter of fact, Tim, we're doing Facebook Live 3 times a week out of our studio, and we have shows that have done upwards of 40,000 views. I would challenge you to look at any of the other retailers that are out there doing Facebook Live and look at their views. Quite frankly, we're equal to, if not higher, in views than they are, and we don't have the benefit of a shopping channel pushing those viewers. And we're doing it right out of a studio 2 doors away here, or 2 offices away, overlooking Times Square.
And it makes it, and I relate to that because my company, Talk About Watches, is doing something similar to you guys in that sense. And to me, one of the smart things that you guys are doing, you mentioned you have a studio just a couple of doors down from you, is once you bypass in my view, the increasing albatross that is cable and satellite, it just makes everything so much more efficient. It's also cost efficient. The vendors benefit. The customer which I still think is number one, benefits directly. Now, you also mentioned, I so appreciated you brought this up, Marvin. You talked about protecting the brand, and that's something that I've been into for the longest time. Is someone makes the investment, they step up and they own a nice watch. The last thing you need to do is, you drop by, TJ Maxx or something, and it's in there for 90% off or whatever. Really consistently bringing a value and you can almost argue, I think, a prestige but added value makes total sense. So, kudos. I think that's great.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's very, very important. I'm looking at some of the watches I brought here, which we may talk about. I have a Panerai, the Breitling, and I have the watch that Craig made, the Watch Geeks watch, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
And, owning those types of watches, each one's got a different thing for me. I love Breitling because, as you know, I'm a commercial pilot in my prior life, and Breitling's got that great history with aviation. So that's why I have two of those. But you want to know that you're buying into something. You don't want to see it, in some off outlet store, as you said, at 90% off. That doesn't make you feel good about what you did.
So let's talk about. I'm going to come back to the article if I can. One of the things you mentioned is you wanted to pursue other businesses, and my question is: do you mean by other businesses product categories? Or are you literally talking about diversifying Evine into other business channels?
There are not a lot. There's probably at least a half a dozen, if not more, really open white space categories in our opinion. Things such as vitamins and supplements are well over a $200 million a year category on the other channel. Food is more or less non-existent. And there are some crazy numbers when you look at what's being done on the other channel in food. And again, an open white space. And consumer electronics, as we know, that's one of the first things that customer buys when they buy for the first time, is not just consumer electronics, but name brands. It's nice to have your own brand, but a customer, when they first test you out, after they watch for a couple months, they will buy something they know and trust in regular retail. It'll arrive in their home. It'll be a good experience. There's a saying in the business, Tim, a product sells two times, once on air and once when it arrives in the home. And that's a function of good packaging and a good sense of arrival in the home. And we have to make sure that we preserve those elements. But again, we can expand the product category in a couple of areas that are literally not even there right now at all. And will take time to build. You may remember that between Brody and I, we both brought a vitamin line to the channel. It was never given time to develop. The vitamin line that was on QVC that's now at HSN literally took about a year to get its footing at HSN before it finally started taking off. And again, it takes time for somebody to trust and use something they're going to put in their mouth or put on their skin. So it's going to take a little bit of time. You have to have patience when you do that.
You mentioned that the first-time customers looking for brand names. I find that comment interesting because that means that the price is not the be-all, end-all. I mean, you could, if it was, you can just get a knockoff and see what's up with that. So it sounds like the customer's not necessarily. I mean, is price important, of course, but it doesn't sound like that's the be-all, end-all for your client.
No, it's about having really great brands. If you look at Jim Morrison's background, being the past president of L'Oreal, I mean, think of what might be coming our way. And we know right in the Spanish Latin market that that customer spends 3 times the amount on beauty products that a English-speaking customer spends. Right. And that's going to be another great category for us. We've also are already in discussions and basically have a letter of intent with the #1 Spanish influencer in the country. I mean, as Dr. Brody said, we're ready to go. I mean, if somebody said to me, go, Marvin, hop on a plane, you're there. I mean, we can make it happen now.
And I want to tie in a technology and a content aspect regarding what you just made about a comment about price and old thinking versus, innovative thinking. If you look at a brick and mortar type of thinking where it's, revenue per cubic foot per hour, the Walmart model. That's why Walmart killed it for so long. They really figured out how to get a product from a factory anywhere on planet Earth on that shelf and get it off the shelf as fast as possible. If you're in that world, yeah, it's all about price. But in what we've already done and what we have seen and what we believe we can transmit into a larger entity like Evine is that if you concentrate on the shopping experience and use content and leverage technology to enhance the content experience, people will focus on brands. They will buy better stuff. They will buy better stuff and they will pay for it and they will like it. And all I have to do to point out is just go to an Apple store, because that's what they do.
And just as in the watch category, people are very familiar with the name brands. When you move off into other categories like vitamins, like supplements, those kind of products, you know, imagine our model of having a blogger who's an expert on this area of nutrition, on health, explaining to you the advantages. Not a salesperson selling it to you, because you know you're going to be suspicious. I may say anything to you to make a sale, but having them explain the advantages of a certain vitamin supplement or a combination of vitamins put together, and then say, okay, we can offer this to you. That adds a genuine level of trust to the consumer, and I believe that will turn around and give us a share of that market, of that many hundreds of millions of dollar market, for us to bring top line revenue right off the top.
It seems to me, as I listen to you guys lay out your plan, that this is going to open up, I think, potentially some brands that right now are reticent because, let's speak candidly, and I've got 32 years in the video retail business, going back to the early days at the time it was called HSC. And I think the industry, from its roots, was all about just get the cheapest price on a kind of relatively nondescript product. And certainly, huge strides have been made differently since then. But I'll speak from my experience. You know, I travel to Switzerland at least once a year. I talk to a lot of these watch companies. They've been reticent, not that they're not interested, but they don't like the idea of just being in this discount perpetual markdown environment. It sounds like what you guys are talking about might remedy a bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you can have price conscious products also, but for those that are going to be products that you're proud to own, that, you know, price should be protected, and it should be more about the brand and what you're getting as a customer and what you're receiving. You also know that it's a function of, you know, in electronics, what are you including with the product that might be a better configuration than you would get at regular retail, so therefore you can give a good value. There's many ways to work around the pricing issue, and I know that we can do that. I know there's a good team there now, but it just can't be all about price. That's a losing, it's a losing battle. You've seen that time and time again in the mobile phone business. I mean, every month, someone's got a different plan at a cheaper price, and they're constantly fighting each other for, until somebody gives it away for free, and then they'll probably, after they give it away for free, they're going to give you money to then switch to them, which some of them do now already. So it's a downhill spiral. You have to come up with a different way of presenting product to where you want to own the product because it's really cool. You know, one of my bucket list watches, and someday I will own it. Number one, it's my daughter's name. Number two, I love the technology of the watch, is Devon. I mean, I love the Devon watch. And I mean, that's a watch that for the couple of people that can afford it, it's not that far away from some of the watches that are currently on the website at Evine. It's just a function of getting to that criteria, and especially when you're doing value pay, that becomes a rather affordable item as compared to some other things, and it's a watch you buy once in a lifetime to add to your collection.
No, I actually did the photography for Devon Tread 1, and it's that is an amazing watch. So I got to wear it around a couple of weeks, and it's rather awesome. Then I had to give it back. That wasn't as awesome. Let me talk about studios a little bit. You mentioned a couple rooms down. You guys have yours. in the article, you mentioned going bi-coastal. I assume New York, Los Angeles with the studios. My question is, what advantage does that have that the Eden Prairie, Minnesota studio by itself isn't giving right now?
Well, very simply, because of the relationships we have and the partnerships, there's going to be a LA studio which currently exists because of our partnership over here with Two Vision Canal, which gives us Two Star Shop, which is the Spanish version of Star Shop Now. We have a studio that overlooks Times Square, and we've spoken with a company that handles Spanish cable satellite distribution down in South Florida. So we actually would have 3 studios literally all over the country. So, you know, when you want to visit Minneapolis in the beautiful summer, great. When it's minus 20, we'll have other choices for you.
But let me reiterate, we have absolutely no intention of moving anything out of Minneapolis,
Right.
out of Eden Prairie.
Just adding to it.
Everything, right. This is an addition.
Right.
This is not a substitution.
Right.
Well, since we got pretty much watch guys sitting here, let's talk a bit about that specific, because even though of late Evine's reported declining sales, I think it's fair to say that they remain a major U.S. retailer in the world of wristwatches. What's your thought on that category, past, present, future?
Past, you know, I believe they had some really great brands that I absolutely loved. I love the DNA of the companies, whether it was Deep Blue. Again, some of the original watches that when I came there originally with Invicta, I think that the brands became less and less expensive. And I think it's okay to, again, to have a value product, but not a product that's in the $2,000 to $3,000 category. Or I think, as you and I discussed, if I'm spending $3,000 for a diamond-faced watch, I want it to be a automatic mechanical movement. I don't want it to be a quartz movement. I think there's things that go together and there's things that don't go together. I mean, you know, I own a Panerai. I own a simple 2-hand Panerai, no second hand. I have to wind it up every day when I want to use it. And I love the simplicity of that. And that's to me the essence of, you know, a watch. That's all it should be. And at the same time, you know, I'll admit I also have an Apple Watch that I will wear during the day sometimes, especially the new one, because it's a standalone phone. So when I go biking, I don't have to worry about having my phone with me. It's great when I'm on the bike. So I think, you know, having variety, having watches that you really want to have in a collection is the future, and not trying to cheapen any one watch, but actually giving value because of its collectability, because of the DNA of the watch and the DNA of the company, I think will be critical in the go-forward strategy.
Because as you said, Tim, you know, watch collectors are very passionate, and there's also there's an emotional connection when you get something of value, and it's yours. And I mean, just to share it's an emotional story, but I was given an IWC Schaffhausen circa 1950, late 40s, 1950, and it was given to me by my late uncle who passed away way back then, and I kept it in my safe because it was in mint condition. Unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to wear it that often. My house was broken into, and my safe was robbed, and out of everything I lost, that emotional attachment to that watch was really the most devastating. The good part of that story, which your viewers would love, was when we circled the house looking for stuff that was actually thrown and discarded, they dropped the IWC in my driveway. And we found it. Nothing else was found. That watch laid in the driveway. And I picked it up. Just imagine the emotion. I picked up that watch, and I've had it for, you know, like I said, it's 70 years old in mint condition, solid gold. And the next thing I did was, it's not staying in the safe. I drove it up to my son in Boston. I gave it to him at his next birthday, and I said, now you keep it for the rest of your life and give it to your little son when he's ready for it. That's an emotional attachment. That's what watch people have when they have their watches.
You know, that is so true. There is literally an emotional attachment. And I also find a certain level of achievement. We've all got our dream watches, and I've been very blessed to own a few of them. And there is a sense of you put this on, and there's a sense of achievement, and you almost have to come to grips sort of with a reality to it. I would think when you discovered that watch that had been dropped on your driveway, you probably did like a triple take. You know, like, I just want to see it, but it's not really there. But now it seems to be there. And why is it there? And then this joy of it's still here. That's, you know, I think if you had, I don't know, like just a nondescript item in the safe, you'd be happy. I recovered it, but you wouldn't have that emotional drive.
You know, everybody's got that connection. I mean, my father forever has had, if you remember the original Bulova Accutron, Space View. He had one in the gold case, and I missed the opportunity when the 50th anniversary came out to buy one. So if any of your followers have a brand new in the box 50th anniversary Accutron Space View, private message me. I'll be a buyer.
Yeah, see, there we go. Already conducting business. Marv, I'm gonna, for time's sake, I'm gonna kind of wrap this up, but I want to talk a bit about your watch collection. You've been kind enough to bring a few pieces in. Kind of take us on a tour there.
Basically, I mean, I'll just real quickly. So a couple things that I'm really proud of here, Tim, is first off, as I mentioned, this was the Watch Geeks watch that Craig did. I love this watch because it's like nothing else out there, with the lume dial, the WG on the rotor. And, you know, I just envision this watch being made in Russia with the term Watch Geek on it, trying to figure out what code that was for something. And then I have, this is the original, I bought this years ago when I first got my pilot's license. This was a special edition Breitling that the back, and you know, case backs are really kind of where they do a lot of really cool stuff. The back of the case is actually a jet engine, and I love that. And of course, as I mentioned before, the simple two-hand Panerai. I mean, I love the simplicity of this watch. I had to customize it, as a lot of people do with Panerais. There's a really cool guy, which I think you know, called Strapsmith, who makes custom straps. I love that guy. You know, he reminds me of the soup Nazi. You know, after he takes the order, it said, you got a message, do not call me. You know, give me at least 3 weeks to make your watch band, and that's it. But again, he makes the most amazing custom bands for watches.
I'm going to wrap this up. We can just go around the table, maybe. Again, thank you, all three of you, for taking time out of what is clearly a busy day. I just wondered if you had a final statement for us.
Want to start with you?
Let me tell you, our emotion, our passion, our desire to bring innovation to really, I believe in 20 years, people are going to turn around and say, hey, Segel Vision had the vision. And we, although we are facing obstacles and dismissiveness, we are nonetheless as enthusiastic and as energetic to make this happen in all of the aspects that we discussed over the past hour as we were from day one. And that's where our vision is, and that's where we're going to end up.
Hugo?
I think we're excited and humbled in a way to have the gift to be able to come in to the video retail and the video commerce industry and to be a part of a change that people are going to write about 20 years from now. And also, we didn't touch on this as much, the fact that we'll be able to reach out to the over 41 million people that speak Spanish at home every single day, and empower them to be able to have access to the brands that their English-speaking American brothers and sisters have, and also empower the brands to have a huge market that they have no access to.
And Tim, I'm just going to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. You and I go way back. We've hung out together. We've hung out with a lot of the other watch guys, and I look forward to being able to do that again and bring some really cool products back to TV shopping.
Gentlemen, thank you. And again, just to kind of wrap things up here, Dr. Brody, thank you. Hugo, it's a pleasure, sir. Thank you. And of course, Marvin Segel. Those gentlemen are putting together a fantastic new program called Starshop. My name is Tim Temple. I'm with talkaboutwatches.com. On behalf of all of us, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.